So good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this afternoon's webinar. It's the Fast Phonics webinar session 1, which is an introduction to Fast Phonics. So we are just coming up to 3:30 here in the UK. So I'll just introduce myself and then we'll get the session going. So I'm going to be leading the session this afternoon and also manning the chat box. So do excuse me, I'm working between two screens. So if you see me looking off to the side, I'm just checking the GoToWebinar widget and the chat box over there. So I work for 3P Learning. I've been with 3P Learning for 6 years. And my role is really supporting schools and teachers to really get the best from all of our products. And then I also work along with the development team, passing back all the feedback that comes in from teachers. So again, today is a great time where if you're already using the product, again, share your feedback with me. So I've been with 3P, like I say, for 6 years. And previous to that, I taught in primary schools across Leeds. So I'm based in Leeds in Yorkshire for 15 years. And the majority of those years I spent in early years and in Key Stage 1. So I come to Fast Phonics with real excitement this afternoon because for those 15 years, I taught phonics probably every single morning. So quite a lot of years teaching phonics to reception children and then through year 1 and into year 2. So it gives me great pleasure to go through Fast Phonics with you. And all I can do is keep thinking about how much my students would have loved being able to do Fast Phonics when I was a teacher. So I do need all your feedback. I do need your questions. And of course, first of all, I need to know that you can hear me, that you can see me, and that you see a screen at the moment with the Yeti and his furballs and the title Introduction to Fast Phonics. So you should have a little widget, a go-to widget on your screen. And if at the bottom of that, if you could locate either the chat or question box. And if you could just pop in there for me a little bit about where you're dialing in from, what your school is, maybe which year group you're teaching. Have you already started your Fast Phonics journey? So if so, how long have you been using Fast Phonics for? And just really so that I know that you can hear me and that you can see me. And just to give me a little bit of context, like I say, it is an introduction session, but it does help me to know where in the world you are and whether you're completely new to Fast Phonics or you've had some time in the program already. So I'm just going to pause for a moment and I'm just looking across and I'm just hoping that some of you will do that for me so that I can see. So I can see from the list that I've got that we are coming in from across the world. I can see that we've got some of our Spanish schools online. We've got schools from Ireland coming in. So let me just have a look and hopefully somebody has let me know that they can hear me. So Patrice, that's wonderful. I can see Patrice, Northern Ireland, and she started Fast Phonics with reception in year 1 or P1 and 2 in Northern Ireland, and you've been using it from November. And I can also see we've got Karen there from St Mary's in Morecambe, and you're new to Fast Phonics, so welcome to Fast Phonics. And I can see that we've got some more people online. So if you've not popped that into that box, please do that. It also helps me to know that you can see where that question box is, because for these sessions, because there's quite a few people online, you are on mute. So do use that chat box if you've got any questions, if you need me to go over anything, if you've got any feedback, pop it all in there. So I'll keep watching out to make sure that I can see everyone that's posting in there. Okay, while the rest of you are just putting that information in there for me, I'm just going to go through this afternoon's agenda. So this afternoon, we're going to do a quick overview of what Fast Phonics is. You'll be aware your school has actually subscribed to Reading Eggs. And of course, Reading Eggs really contains 3 programs in one. It has Reading Eggs, Reading Express, and Fast Phonics. But this afternoon's session is all about the systematic synthetic program within the Reading Eggs umbrella, Fast Phonics. We'll go through and we'll have a look at the student console. So I'm going to take you through what Fast Phonics looks like from the student point of view when they log into it. We're going to have a look at where to go for support and guides and where to access the launch lesson. And then from the teacher console, we're going to go into student management, see where the login cards are, how to access the parent letters, how to manage progress, and then we're going to talk about teaching using Fast Phonics as your key resource. I'm going to go through a lot of new content in the program, so I'm going to go through the teacher guides with the weekly planners. We'll have a look at the teaching resources, printables and flashcards, where the support videos are, how to access the printable readers. And like I say, I'll keep stopping throughout the session and just checking that question box to see if anybody's posted anything in there for me. So if for any reason my internet starts to drop out again, please highlight that to me in the chat box. But hopefully this afternoon it should be working nicely here. Okay, so first of all, just that quick overview of Fast Phonics for anybody that's completely new to it. Like I say, it's part of Reading Eggs, but Fast Phonics is the part that is a complete systematic synthetic phonics program. And those of you that are dialing in from England will be aware that here in England, the Department for Education has a list of approved systematic synthetic phonics programs. So just for your information, Fast Phonics has applied for approval. It does hit all 16 criteria listed by the DFE, but obviously it takes the DFE quite a while to work through all the programs. So we won't have the DFE outcome for quite a few months still, but just so that you know that it does hit all 16 criteria and that we have done the submission. So that's just a quick overview there. So in terms of what pupils get, the program, when we go in, we'll see that it's made up of peaks. Peaks basically are sort of each one is a series of lessons that covers a set of phonemes. Each of those has got videos in it that introduce all the new phonemes and then some really fun activities. You'll see the character of the Yeti going through all the student activities along with his friends, the Pupils. So it's really engaging for those young learners. You'll also see that for students, they have access to decodable books within the Fast Phonics program, and there are additional decodable books in the Reading Express library. So when students are working through, because they've got to complete each exercise with a minimum of 80%, then really they're assessed as they work through each activity. And at the end of each peak, there's also an end of peak assessment. So you've got that ongoing assessment built into the program. So for students, I'm going to be showing you the progress chatter, the progress tracker, and also talking to you about how they earn Yeti coins and how they achieve certificates. So we'll find out all about the teacher content too once we're actually in the program. So I'm just having a quick look, and yeah, hopefully everybody is hearing me and seeing me, and at the moment I'm not seeing any additional questions coming in. So I am just keeping half an eye over there. So we're going to start out by going into the student console and seeing how it works from the student point of view. So the presentation that I'll keep coming back to and referring to, I'll remind you at the end of the session, if you want a copy of the presentation, you'll need to just put a note for me in that question box requesting this. You will get an email that will come out to you from GoToWebinar that will send you a recording of the session. So the session, I hope to get it through everything within the hour. Occasionally it overruns a little bit. Normally if we've got lots of really sort of good questions to dig into. If it overruns and you have to jump off at 4:30, don't worry, the complete session is recorded and you'll get that recording emailed through to you. And by all means, if you're dialing in and you're the literacy lead or you've got colleagues across those year groups that teach phonics, then by all means do, of course, share the recording. So let's jump in and have a look at it from the student console. So I've first of all come in as a teacher because I just want to remind you too that particularly if you're a teacher of early years, yes, you'll have given your students all their own login, but as we all know, those young students can find it tricky to actually log into programs themselves. So what you're able to do is log in as a teacher. So if you've got a small bank of computers, for instance, log each one on as yourself, and then come to this Fast Phonics button here, click Fast Phonics, and at this point, you'll see the names of all of your students. So if, for instance, I wanted Penny to use this computer, I'd be able to call her over and simply click there for Penny, and it's now going to automatically log me into Penny's account. So I'm just going to put it on mute so I'm not talking over the sound from the program. So you can see here, for instance, that Penny is just about to go into peak 4. If we go into peak 4, so this is the peak that she's currently working on, and you'll see that activities only open up one by one. So this is where she is on her learning journey. And then once she's completed that activity, the next one would open up. You'll also see that she can use that arrow. So if she wants to go back and just recap any of the phonemes that she's covered already, so we can come back to peak 3 here. And when we come into peak 3, because Penny has already completed peak 3, now you can see all the stepping stones are open. So she can go back and she can practice all of these activities. So on this peak, all the brown ones are videos. So those are all introducing the phonemes. And then all the other ones have got activities. And we will go through, I'll demonstrate some of the activities to you as well. So you can see in this peak, there are the 20 activities and videos. Number 20 there is the end of peak quiz, so that assessment before she can move on. And you'll see in this peak, there's one reader. So with the early peaks, because obviously children are only starting out on the journey, so by peak 3, they've learnt SATPI, that's I, and they've learnt M and D, M and D, and now they're coming on to learn curliker and kickinker, and the curliker and kickinker sound together. So they're only building up letter sounds, and obviously the decodable readers only use the phonemes that they've learnt. So these early peaks have one book in them, but as children progress and they're moving further through the program, they can get up to 4 books within the peak. And also, of course, over in the library, there's another whole additional set of phonics readers. So there are even more that they can practice as well. Up at the top here, you'll see that the students can click on, first of all, the pink gem, shows them all the phonemes that they've learnt so far. So here, for instance, you'll see that if Penny clicks on the first one, so there are all the phonemes that she learnt in that first peek. And this is great as well for children when they're working at home with their parents. The parent can click onto this area, see the phonemes that their child has learnt, and if they're not familiar with how we pronounce phonemes in school, they can click directly onto these little videos, and these videos will play that sound and show them the mnemonic that the child is using to remember the actual phoneme. So we can see there, peak 1, she's learned all those phonemes. Peak 2, there. Peak 3, we're learning those. And if we just scroll down there, we've also got the curly cut and kicking cut there. And peak 4, we've just started that peak, so we've just done that first phoneme there. If we move across to the blue gem here, again, students would be able to go back and just recap. These are all the words that I learnt when I did peak 1. So systematic synthetic phonics, you're only doing words that you can sound out with the phonemes that you've learnt. So at peak 1, they've only learnt SAT and P. So those are the words that they can sound out there. And as is introduced, because it's got a slightly different sound, so that's introduced as a tricky word there. Then across here into peak 2, again, you'll spot the tricky words that are covered. So we've got the introduced in peak 2, and we've got and there as well. So any words there, and all the other words we're able to sound out. And as well, we can sound out, but it just takes a little bit more practice. And then through to peak 3 there. So again, tricky words, no and go at this point, but all the other words, the children using the phonemes that they've learnt to that point. And then again, coming back, they're able to go and revisit the books from the other peaks. So they're a great place to recap all the books you've learned. And obviously, as you move through the peaks, all the books coming into that area there. And then finally, there's certificates. So when they pass that end of peak quiz, if they achieve 100%, they get a gold certificate. If they achieve 90%, they get a silver certificate. If they achieve 80%, they get a bronze certificate. And if they achieve less than 80%, they're then encouraged to go back, practice those activities again, watch those videos again, and then come back and have another go at that end of peak quiz. So they can't move on without actually having mastered the phonemes and the learning within each peak. And then finally, when you come across here, just this summary. So here, Penny's done 100% in each of the 3 peaks she's covered so far. She's learned 14 sounds, 49 words, and she's covered 3 books there. So that's a really good area. And like I say, if I was doing a phonics parents meeting, I'd really make sure that parents are aware of that area, because it's a great place for a parent to visit and just recap phonemes that their child has learnt, and just check that your child can sound out and read all the words in the blue gem area there. So over here, we see the number of Yeti coins. So every time they complete an activity, they collect Yeti coins, and then they can come across here to the Yeti Shop, and they can upgrade their Yeti. So we can see here, so we can toggle through. So I could change my Yeti for the blue one. I've got enough there. I need to earn some more coins for the green one. I could have that one. And the one that I always encourage children to work for is this purple one here, because you need 2,000 coins. So you can see again just that sort of that motivation to keep going, to keep practicing, earn some more coins and come back and upgrade your Yeti there. So finally, when I'm leaving the program and I click here, the introduction video, so when children come into Fast Phonics for the very first time, it plays them an introduction video, introduces them to the characters within the program, the Yeti and the Pupils, shows them how the program works. But if at any point they want to watch it again, or parents want to find out a bit more about the program, you can always rewatch that introduction video there as well. Again, just a reminder too that when students come into the program for the first time, they will do a placement test. I'm also going to be showing you how you as a teacher can go in and you can move their placement as well. So you can choose to either get them to start from the very beginning, or they can do the placement test and start their own individual journey from where the placement test places them. Or I'm going to show you how to use Manage Progress, and you can move them onto the peak that matches the phonemes that you're teaching in class. So we're going to be coming back into the teacher console in a moment. So I'm just pausing and having a little look over at the question box and just checking if there's anything coming in about the student console. Okay, I can just see no questions coming in, but just a couple of comments from teachers saying that their students really like earning those coins and upgrading their Yetis. So yes, like I say, I think that that's a really nice little motivation, and certainly I'd be really encouraging all the students in my class to be aiming for a particular Yeti and seeing if we can all get to that Yeti. And just checking there, yes, just another teacher coming in there and saying, yes, that she's got parents that have also said how useful it is to be able to go into that pink gem area and listen back to the sounds there, because obviously how we pronounce sounds, the pure sounds in systematic synthetic phonics, is a little bit different to, for instance, when I was first teaching phonics 20 odd years ago, then we did pronounce so that sound was more like a p, so it had that schwa in it. But obviously now with systematic synthetic phonics, it's the pure sound and making sure that it doesn't have that schwa, that sound in it, which, like I say, 21 years ago. So again, parents, it's really good for them to be able to hear exactly how we pronounce the phonemes in systematic synthetic phonics. So let's just double check back to the, I come back to the presentation just really to make sure that I'm going to cover everything that we're doing in this webinar, because just that reminder too that this webinar is part of a series of 3 webinars. You will get an attendance certificate for each webinar, but if you complete all 3 webinars, you will get a certificate from whoever's looking after your school. The team member of 3P Learning that looks after your school will come to you with and send you through the phonics certificate, Fast Phonics certification certificate. So that's if you complete all 3 of the webinars. So we're going to go back into the teacher console, and I'm going to show you where to go to get all the guides and where also to go for the launch lesson. So let's just get this link here, and I'll show you first of all where the information is with the video for a launch lesson. So if I come down here, so you can see there I've done support.3plearning./reading eggs/onboarding. Like I say, if you request the PowerPoint, then it has that link in there as well. So if I scroll down, you'll see that there are launch lessons. So there's a launch lesson for Reading Eggs, there's a launch lesson for Reading Express, and there is a separate launch lesson there for Fast Phonics. So you'll see there that that lesson's half an hour. So it does include time to stop and for your students to do as the video instructs you. So those lessons are good for using in your classroom to actually launch Fast Phonics. So if you've not started the journey yet, I'd highly recommend that. You'll see also underneath these additional resources there, so there's a little scavenger hunt that once children are doing that lesson, it just gets them encouraged to go and have a look for different features across the programme. So, you know, how many activities in each peak, what type of creature is our blue friend. So it just gets them to really explore the programme there. So that's where you find the launch lesson. And then we're going to jump back into the teacher console and I'm going to show you all the guides within there. So if we come back here, if you do that method of sharing the teacher console across to your students, what you will find is that it's a little IT safety feature really. If I was Penny, I can't just click back and come into the teacher console. It asks for the teacher to log back in again. And obviously, because I'm at home, I've got my username and password saved. But obviously, if you're a teacher in school, as long as you don't save your username and password there, then none of your students can actually come back to press the back button or come back and actually get into the teacher console. So we're back on the teacher console and I'm going to take you down the left-hand menu and we come all the way down here to quick links, and under the quick links section you'll see here Fast Phonics. So within this area you'll see there's a really good white paper. So that's all the research behind systematic synthetic phonics and how it's been applied to Fast Phonics. So there's the complete document and also just a one-page overview there. And then we've got a host of guides here. So I'm just going to show you a few of the ones that I recommend that you have a look at. So we'll just open those three. This bottom one here is about the additional online library books that are phonics readers. So those additional readers are covered in webinar 2, but that's where the guide is. If before you do that webinar, if you want to find out more about those books, that's that one there. So let's have a look at these. So this is really useful because again, any of you that were used to teaching phonics with letters and sounds, you'll see here that, for instance, with the phoneme, the most common way of doing the phoneme is introduced in peak 5. Then you see it with the grapheme with the double S introduced in peak 5. So peak 1, then peak 5, and then you'll see these alternatives, and the alternative phonemes are introduced across peak 19, so they're through in phase 5. And then some of the additional sounds are also introduced through the teaching guide. So you'll see that last alternative there, the sort of paler yellow, indicating that that's taught in the teacher guide for peak 20. But this is great for just being able to see all the phonemes and the sequence of them being introduced across the program. So a useful document there. This document here gives you an overview of what the content of each peak. So here we can see, for instance, we're going to focus on peak 3. So we can see peak 3 aligns to letters and sounds. Phase 2, we can see the letters that are introduced. So the G, the O, C, K, and curly K and kicking K together. All of those introduced. Here we know there are 6 videos, so it tells us that there's a video that introduces each of those phonemes. There's also a video that introduces children to the idea of blending and segmenting and building up CVC words. Here we can see sort of an overview of all the different activities, the words introduced, and the book that comes into that peak. And this document basically goes through all of the peaks. So there you can see, for instance, this one, there are 5 books there. And you'll see, obviously, as you go through the phonemes coming across here, so you start to do the long vowel sounds, the alternative phonemes coming in, and obviously the list of words getting trickier, so all the way through. Phase 4, again, if you're used to letters and sounds, you'll know that at phase 4, we don't introduce any new phonemes, so no new sounds, but a lot of practice around blending and segmenting. So sounding out those phonemes, blending them together to read words, or hearing a word and breaking it down, segmenting it into the sounds that we hear. So peak 13 and 14, no new phonemes, but a lot of practice around CVC, so consonant, vowel, consonant, consonant, and again CCVC. So words like flag and words like shop, although shop, of course, has got the SH as a phoneme together, so technically shop being CVC. But you can see there sort of building up. We've got stop, slug, even sort of those words there indicating what's learned across those peaks. And then continuing all the way through phase 5. So that's another useful document. And then finally, this document actually tells you exactly the activity for every stepping stones. And this is going to become a really useful document when you're using it on the interactive whiteboard. Referring to this document lets you see exactly what each of the stepping stones does. And again, we'll look at the planning, but you can see from this, for instance, you know, that if you've just introduced here, they've watched that video on the curly K, then this next activity here focuses on that letter sound and off, which we've previously done. So you could see that you could use that on your interactive board. Then you could do the activity with your students on the interactive whiteboard as well. So it helps you to plan the activities that you want to do in the lessons and use it alongside the lesson plans that we'll look at as well. So also there, the week by week teaching guide. So week by week here, and again, of course, this is just a guidance, so you will know how strong and how your students are doing, but it's an overview, and obviously if you print the document out, room there for you to write a comment. So obviously if we say 1 week, if your students are finding the phonemes a little bit tricky, just adapt this so that it fits with your time span. But that's a useful document to show you how the program progresses. So again, I'm just pausing for a moment and just seeing. Okay, I've got a quick question there from one of the teachers saying they hadn't seen these documents before. No, so these documents are fairly recent into the program. So like I say, because we've done the submission for the Department for Education, Fast Phonics has always been a brilliant program for supporting students to learn phonics. But some of the criteria from the Department for Education were also really about supporting teachers with teaching phonics. So there's a lot of new resources in the program that really are there but to really support teachers. So these new documents, if you've used the program for a while and think, I'm sure I've not seen them before, you could well be right. Some of these documents did come into the program just before the Easter holidays. I'm also going to highlight, though, that in terms of additional documents, if I go to lessons and under the resources for each of the peaks there, you'll see there's also a weekly guide. We'll have a look at one of those in more depth as well. And there's also a teaching slide deck. So you can print out flashcards. There are flashcards that go with every peak. But if instead of printing out and laminating those flashcards, if you're using an interactive whiteboard or a large screen, there's also a PowerPoint, a teaching slide deck that goes with each of the peaks. And again, I'll take you through those. And we'll have a look at all of these printable resources, but you'll see here cursive handwriting, non-cursive, and phonics worksheets with every single peak. Again, they're attached under resources, but you can also toggle across, so you can see here those weekly teaching guides for each peak. If I go across to the slide decks, if you just want to download a slide deck, those are all there as well. And again, if you're used to letters and sounds, so for instance, if you're working on phase 4, if you click phase 4, then it's just going to highlight in terms of lessons. So lessons are the same as peaks. So peak 13 and 14 cover phase 4. There are the teaching guides. There are the slide decks as well. And then at the end here, we've got new training videos that have gone in here. So again, like I say, because we need to be teaching those pure sounds, there are videos here that will take you through all the phase 2 grapheme phoneme correspondences and will model to you how to pronounce those phonemes. So pronunciation videos for phase 2, phase 3. Phase 4, like I say, no new grapheme phoneme correspondences, but a lot of practice around blending and segmenting. And again, this video covering that. And then phase 5 pronunciations all covered here. And then you'll see there are additional videos that take you through how to assign both individual phonics readers and how to make a collection of phonics readers, as well as that little video there about helping at risk pupils. And you may have noticed too that when we were down in quick links in the Fast Phonics area, there is also that guide there. So there's both a printed and a video guide for supporting struggling students. So lots and lots of great new content in there. So I'm just double checking if there were any questions or if it's just a couple of teachers saying, yeah, they'd not noticed all of that content before. And like I say, we will dive deeper into the weekly teaching guide as well. So let's just move on. So a little bit of management. I'm going to show you how to get those login cards, how to edit them. Really important. I'm going to show you where to get the parent letters, because your parents can sign up for a linked account. And the benefit of that is they'll get a weekly email that tells them how their child is doing. And they can also get access to additional bonus resources as well. So to do that, let's just close down some of the documents that I've opened up. So we're going to go again in the left-hand menu. We go to Management, Manage Pupils. So I'm logging in with a admin account. So if you're leading literacy in school, then you probably would have this account, which gives you all the students across the school. I'm just going to look for the students in my class here. And obviously this is just a demonstration class, so I appreciate that it's a much smaller class than than most schools would have. It's just for demonstration. So at this point, I can select all of my students and I would simply go to print logins. Again, if I want to do the parent letters, I do more action and I download the parent letter there. I just want to show you one parent letter, so I'm just going to select one for Penny. So download the parent letter, and these come out as individual letters, so they give the parents the child's login and password, but here too are those instructions for setting up a parent account. So it gives them the web link there and reminds them they have to enter their child's login, so provided above, and then click start. And like I say, they'd also get a weekly email. It's also useful if you're dialing in from the UK, then when you do it from a UK school, it's going to have the telephone number for our Bristol head office and the customer support team here. And depending where in the world, because I can see that we've got online schools from Mexico and Spain as well. So depending where in the world you've logged in, you'll also get regional specific contact details in there. You can also remember, we've talked about how to support your younger students so it's easier for them to log in, but you'll see there too that I've edited the password and actually the login to try to make it easier for younger children. So do that to support your youngest learners. Now, while we're in the management area too, I'm just going to show you manage progress, because I talked about how students will do that placement test or they start at lesson 1. But of course, when you're teaching with it, so if for instance, this week I was doing those phonemes, so I'm doing the phonemes that are covered in peak 3, so the G, the O, the C, the K, then I would want my students on peak 3. And for that, I would simply select all of my students. I'd go to edit progress, to Fast Phonics, and I would simply select peak 3 and then update them. I'm not going to update them because they're just my demonstration students, but that's how you can ensure that even if your student hasn't reached peak 3, you can put them all on peak 3, ready so that they can watch the videos that go with what you're teaching, and they can do those online activities that you might model in class. They can practice them at home as well. So just use that change progress there. So just back to check that we've covered everything, we've done everything on that slide. And here, this is what I've just shown you there. There is down in red at the moment. If you're used to the rest of Reading Eggs, you'll know that in Reading Eggs and Reading Express, you can assign things. In Fast Phonics, there isn't the function to assign. You use what I've just shown you as manage progress to make sure that your students are on the right peak to match what you're teaching in class. This does here show you that placement guide. I'm just going to show you the placement guide when we go to quick links. It's not in the Fast Phonics area because it's with the other placement guides, and the other placement guides are over here in user guides. So if I just scroll up, here we've got the Fast Phonics placement guide. So if we just open that up, you'll see here if your students do the placement test, you'll be able to see in the reporting the peak that they're starting on, and this just helps you to see. So if they start on peak 4, then the program has assessed that they know those phonemes, and these are the phonemes that they'll be learning next. So it just helps you to see exactly where they've landed. So it is a useful document. Okay, so just checking across again. Okay, no questions on that document or the placement test. Okay, we're going to go in and I'm going to show you the weekly planner. so that you can see how the program now really supports not only students learning phonics, but also you as teachers using Fast Phonics to teach your students. So let's go into the program, down to Fast Phonics lessons, and we're going to focus on Peak 3. So I'm going to pretend that this week I'm focusing on these as the phonemes. So like I say, I could use the tabs along the top, but I'm going to go into resources here, and I'm going to open up the weekly teacher guide. I'm going to open up the slide deck. I'm going to open up the phonics sheets, and my children are doing non-cursive, so we're not doing the flick in as a precursive to joined up handwriting. We're just doing non-cursive handwriting. So I've opened up that non-cursive handwriting sheet there. So let's start out then with the teacher guide. So where was my teacher guide in here? That's my worksheets. Perhaps I haven't opened up the teacher guide. Let's open it up there. Okay, so here's my teacher guide. And you'll see, first of all, there's 67 pages to this. So it literally gives you everything that you need to be teaching the phonemes within Peak 3. You can see in the content here that weekly planner, the sound map, the flashcards, and actually it also has the handwriting coming in here. It gives you all the tricky words. So everything that you need. So if I just scroll down, there's a little bit of an introduction to how the lesson works. So that format that most people use for teaching phonics. So review what students have already learnt, teach the new phoneme, practice it with the children together, and then they go back to their desk and apply that. And that application they can do with the handwriting sheets and with the phonics activity sheets as well. Or if you've got devices in class, they could be practicing doing the activities independently on Fast Phonics as well. So they're just expanding on those elements of the lesson. And then I'm just going to increase this so it's a little bit easier to see it on your screen. But you can see here those learning objectives, all the words that you're going to be covering. So like I say, giving you everything that you need to really support phonics. So here, for instance, Monday, there, I know what I'm reviewing. I'm going to be teaching that G sound, and that's on my stone 1. So on the first stepping stone, we're going to watch, we're going to practice hearing and saying the phoneme, and then we're going to go in and do that stepping stone, and we'll drop in and I'll take you through some of those then. Then you can see at the apply section there, they're going to be using the worksheets and the handwriting sheets. So we open some of those. So let's see here. So we've got here a phonics worksheet that covers what we're learning. And we've also got the handwriting here. So modeling how to write there. And then, like I say, I can use the program on my interactive whiteboard, but I've also got this PowerPoint. So let me just pull this across. So if I don't want to have the flashcards, I can actually have the flashcards as part of this teaching deck. I can model the handwriting. So there, my non-cursive. If my students are doing cursive handwriting, I can model that. So all those flashcards, all in there as a complete slide deck. You've also got the Elkenin boxes. So if you're modeling, for instance, sounding out and writing the word at, you've got that, the Elkenin boxes for 2-letter words, Elkenin boxes for 3-letter words. So I can model at. And again, obviously, my students might have dry whiteboards, so they can do it on their board. I can model it on my screen. Again, you've got here with the sound buttons coming in, so we can sound this out button by button and then blend it through. Tricky words too, so all the flashcards for the tricky words covered in that pick. So you can see everything that you need to support you with teaching is all there. Just picking up again, just a comment there. Yes, again, is this new content? Yes, this weekly planner for each of the peaks, that is all new content and all designed, like I say, to really support you and make sure that you have everything that you need to support you with teaching phonics at your fingertips. So those teaching slide decks there. So let's just jump then into one of the peaks so you can see some of those activities and how they would work in the classroom. So again, if I'm modeling it in class, I can simply click that preview button here. So this is going to open up peak 3 for me as a teacher. I go into play. Now, because I've come in as a teacher, all those stepping stones are open. Remember, for students, they've got to open them one at a time. So in this one here, all the brown ones are my my sound videos. So if I had the guide open, so you can see, for instance, here on Tuesday, it tells me Stone 3, I'm going to do the video for off. So I've got the video here. Let's just open it up. And you can see here, modeling again the letter. I've turned the sound off. Let's just turn it back on again so you can hear it. So we've got the octopus and the orange, and it's modeling the off sound. So octopus on an orange. So again, modeling the sound, giving them a mnemonic. So remembering the orange and the octopus and the images to help them remember. And then on to the next activity. So again, in here, it's telling me that we can watch that video and then we're going to practice it. There's also a CVC. So there, modeling, blending through the CVC video, but we're going to have a look at sound squares. We've got to pick out the off phoneme, and we're also, let's go and have a look at Stone 6. So we would do this in the practice part. So across to Stone 6. So just a great activity to model on the interactive whiteboard. So there we've got the word, we're stretching it out. You've got to get the children to pronounce each phoneme. So each of the phonemes, touch each sound button. So we're going to go off and then it brings it together and it tells the children now blend them together. So we're going on, and then it tells them the word is on. Now you can see it there with the CVC word, so stretch it out, models the sound buttons, and then the children would say each of those phonemes and then blend it together. So we're going g, o, and then they're going to blend it through. So you can see what a great video that would be to use on your interactive whiteboard there with your students. So let's go back and we'll go through a couple of the other phonemes then, or a couple of the other stepping stones I meant to say. So 9 here, for instance. So again, in this one, you've got them coming on, showing you the word. Word is going to drop down, so children hear the word. So this time they're using that segmenting skill. How was the word put together? And we can build it back up. If and the g, and then when we've got it correct, off it goes. So all of those activities you can see just really good to use on your interactive whiteboard, and then children to do independently at home as well. So I'm just going to also just show you one last one before we go back and look at some of the other resources. So this is an activity that, again, if you've been teaching phonics for some time, you'll be used to doing this, but having to write it all on your whiteboard, whereas now you can do it on the interactive whiteboard. So let's unmute it and see it work. So the first word is pit, and then we're just going to be changing one of the phonemes to create a new word. So now make the word pat. So your children would sound it out. Now we're going to change one letter, and now we've made a new word. So now can we sound it out again and make the word pot? So now we're going to make the word dot. Now make the word dog. And again, each time they'd be sounding out each of the phonemes and blending them through. So you can see again, it's just a great activity to model on the interactive whiteboard. In there. And then you can see them go round the circle there. And then obviously, of course, that could be extended with children writing more words on their whiteboards and seeing what other words they could make with those phonemes. Here again, you can see I collect my Yeti coins there. And then if we come forward, it's going to take me back in and open up some more activities. So you can see there, and I've listed within that one peak some of the other activities. So like I say, all those activities ideal to use in the classroom, and I'd be using that teaching guide following through, so you know which stepping stone has got the videos, you know which stepping stone you're going to be practicing with, and then underneath it tells you exactly which of the worksheets that you could have printed out as additional activities. And then there are additional practical activities in there as well. You'll also see mentioned there the printable book, and I'm going to show you where we go to access that printable book. So let's just go back and just check, okay, exactly where we wanted to go. So up to the printable library. So we come up to the printable library up here, and we've just done peak 3. So we knew that the book in there was Sam Can. So if I click on reading books here, I can put in there Sam Can. So you can see there is Sam Can, and I can see it's got the Fast Phonics logo on it. You can see in reading a couple of other books that have Sam in the title, but this is the one I want. If we click on more information, you see the different options for printing the book out. My favourite option is the black and white version, so black and white as a PDF. So this, I'm only going to have to print 3 pages, and that can be put together as a little mini book, so the children can actually take these books home with them, and they, instead of you having to worry about getting readers back in, they're building up their own little collection of phonics readers at home. And of course, with the black and white ones, again, developing those fine motor skills if you encourage them to colour them in at home as well. And there, again, for parents there, the high frequency words that are taught within that particular book as well. So that's a great printable resource. And then also, while we're in the printable area, if I click on the literacy button and we select phonics, you'll also see there sound mats. So if we just download the sound mats, again, these are referred to within the teaching guide, but you'll see that there are, if I just spin these round so the pages are the right way. So the alphabet, but they're phase 2, phase 3. Remember phase 4, no new phonemes. It's all about learning to blend. So these are blends that are introduced at phase 4, and then sound map for phase 5. And you'll see sort of again, you know, print them out, laminate them, sort of A4, A3. They're really useful to have. And then sort of based on this one that I've printed out, I've printed it out and actually created little flashcards from them. And you'll see there just using a little pom-pom maker, making the little fur balls. So again, you can make little fur balls and use all the flashcards as part of your lesson. If anybody's interested in making fur balls, I do actually have a little YouTube video on making fur balls. So again, if you'd like that sending out to you, just put a little message around that in the chat box, and then I'll know to send that out. And again, just a reminder, if you want the presentation, send that out as well. So everything there that you need to, again, like I say, there's flashcards there, Fast Phonics flashcards in that area, and the sound maps all there. So let's just double check here. So we are nearly just about, oh yes, we're on time at 4:30 now. So just that note there. So this has been session 1, introducing you to Fast Phonics. So I do hope that you found everything that I've just shown you really useful, and it's helped to show you how Fast Phonics not only supports your children learning phonics, but supports you in teaching phonics as well, giving you all those the content of the guides and all the printables there, and of course all the content to use on the interactive whiteboard. So session 2, to book onto that, you just simply go to the webinar schedule, and if you come down to Fast Phonics, you'll see there Fast Phonics 2, what's covered there, and that session is in 2 weeks' time. And I know that a couple of people on this session have already booked that, but if you want to do that one, and like I say, if you do all 3, you'll get your Fast Phonics certification. You will get an attendance certificate for each one as well. So that's how to sign up for that last one. And of course, just that reminder that every school does have a member of 3P supporting them. So if you have any questions at all, when you get the email from GoTo, you can reply to that, or you can contact, I've put my contact email on the front of the webinar presentation. So just here, you'll see my email there, and I've also put that into the email. So all that's left really for me to do is to thank you for your time this afternoon, and hope that this first session has been really useful to you, and that both you will enjoy teaching phonics with Fast Phonics, and that your students will enjoy learning Fast Phonics using it. So just a last quick look to see if we've got any further questions coming in. So at the moment, I'm not seeing any questions. So a couple of thank yous. So thank you for those of you that are saying thank you for the session. That's my pleasure. And I'm just going to wait a moment before signing off. But thank you, everybody, and hope to see you on webinar 2. So bye for now.